Good morning, welcome back to the workshop. My name's Jack, this is my channel, and today we are going to build this folding bench. I start off this build by transferring my cut list and plan to a larger A3 piece of paper. This will let me keep the original cut list and notes if I ever want to build one of these. The bench is made from 16 4x2 or 89 by 38mm 2.4 meter lengths of treated CLS. These are cut down to length and ticked off from the cut list as I go. For this build, I tried using a mechanical pencil to get cleaner lines to work from, and while they are a lot cleaner, I found that these cheapo pencils broke all too often, and I ended up using almost an entire pencil for this one bench. Turns out you cannot blow dust away while wearing a mask. With everything cut to length, I can make a start on the angles and bevels. I do have these noted down, but somehow read my notes wrong or didn't read it, and I cut the braces for the tabletop the wrong way. They should have been cut flat across the face, as it says here in my notes. I need to cut some 15-degree angles on some of the pieces, and I just happen to have a 15-degree jig that I knocked up from my single bevel trestle table build. Try to say that 3 times fast. I use this to make sure that the miter saw is at the correct angle, as the gauge at the front isn't quite as accurate as one would hope. The space between my miter saw and the adjoining worktop on the left hand side turns out is about 38mm. So with the help of a block at the back of the miter station, I can use this gap to clamp the pieces laterally so that I can hand cut some odd angles. Then I can just clean up these cuts with a block plane. With everything cut and ready, we're now good to start on assembly. For the legs that hold the moving parts of the bench, I have added a rounded end so that they fit and move more freely under the top of the table. Then I can add holes for the bolts that will hold the moving parts together. I have a few different squares, one of which you saw earlier in the video, the speed square. I also have adjustable tri-squares, just fixed squares. But I thought I'd try out something with the 3D printer to see if it works. This is just the first prototype. Obviously it comes with branding, and I had a little bit of an adhesion issue, but otherwise it is solid and works quite well. Here I am just pre-drilling and starting the screws for the static legs. Then lining up and securing the top of the bench seat, I can use a screw thread as a spacer, which works out to around 5mm in this case, and helps me get a consistent spacing from end to end, and is in line with my drawing. Comfy. And now the moving legs and bench seat. Again, they were braced at the bottom before I can secure the bench seat to those legs. Each bench is 3 pieces of timber deep, which with the spacer is just under 300mm or 12 inches. With the legs and bench seats done, I can move to putting the bench top together. I've braced the underside of the top to try and stop it from warping a bit, and here I'm just measuring and temporarily fixing the brace in place. I check for square, pre-drill the fixing holes for the two outer pieces, and secure those in their square position. Now I can straighten at the edge, mark where I can safely drill to hit the brace on the other pieces, and pre-drill all of those fixing holes as well. It does look like the top is a little uneven at this point, and it is. It'll be a little bit clearer in a few moments, but I do correct this off camera once I actually notice it. Again, using a screw thread as a spacer to keep a consistent gap along the length of the tabletop. I now needed to fix the supports for the moving parts to attach to before I can put this all together and have a sit down and drink a nice, cold, fizzy water. And here I'm just in the last stage of assembly. And with it just being me, this is a little bit awkward. It's a bit too heavy, a bit too wide, a bit too long, a bit too cumbersome to move nicely by myself. And it doesn't help that I keep dropping my hammer. And this here is what I meant by the top being a bit uneven. You can see a few small gaps here and there, but those are gone now. And here we have the finished bench. It could do with a little bit of a sand maybe, but it feels very solid. I'm not going to jump about on it to try it out, just because that's not how it's going to be used. It's just going to go in my garden. It's myself, my wife, my 2 small children, so it's not going to take too much of a beating, but I think it could stand up to a fair bit of abuse either way. There are some things that I would do differently. For example, there are 8 length on the top here, which is good perhaps for somewhere to eat, but to have in a garden I think it's too big. Same for the number of lengths on the seat. You could probably get away with 2 per seat, maybe 6 on the top, so I could reach the other side, but I've still got enough to have a plate or 2 plates on here. Plate should go up to about halfway if they're end on end. It'd also make it a lot lighter. It's quite heavy as it is right now, and while I can open and close it, it's not something I think I'd give to the general populace to go and play with. I would also bolster up the sides a bit, add a few more millimeters of tolerance everywhere, but I will put some plans in the description either way. The original plans for this will go in the description, and once I've had a chance to sit down and rework them to remove some of the top, remove the seats, make it all a bit more easy to put together, then I'll put those down there as well. One of the other things that I want to achieve by remaking this is to make more of the same cut. So I had 11 different cuts for the legs and things, plus the 4 different lengths for the top, the bench, and the supports. So we had 15 different cuts, which is quite a few different cuts to make, whereas if I could get it all to, let's say 6 or 7 different types of cut, then I can make a stop, butt stuff up, and cut, and get it all done a little bit quicker. The aim is to get this under a 3-hour build time, not including painting, and if I do it in untreated timber, then I can stain it and treat it. It'll be about half the cost. So all in this was 16 lengths of timber. There's some scraps left over here and there. But that's it. I mean, it works. It's a bench. It folds. What more can you ask for? Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you want to see more of what I'm doing, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and let me know what you think. See you in the next one.